Why have the United States and Russia remained at odds for so many decades, even long after the Cold War officially ended? Today's world may look very different from the era of the Soviet Union, yet the tension between these two countries continues to shape global politics, military strategy, and international security. Many people hear about disagreements over Ukraine, disputes in the United Nations, or accusations of cyber interference, but the deeper question is, what keeps the United States and Russia locked in a cycle of rivalry? This video begins by exploring the roots of that conflict, not through dramatic moments, but through an understanding of how each nation sees its role in the world and why those visions often clash. To understand this relationship, it's important to look at how history, geography, and national identity influence the way both countries behave. The United States has positioned itself as a global leader promoting democratic values, open markets, and international alliances. Russia, on the other hand, views itself as a major power that must protect its sphere of influence, maintain strategic strength, and prevent what it sees as encirclement by Western institutions such as NATO. These competing perspectives didn't appear suddenly. They were shaped over many years, especially during the Cold War, when the two countries represented rival economic and political systems. Even after the Soviet Union collapsed, many underlying disagreements never fully disappeared. In this introduction, we will set the stage for understanding why the United States and Russia continue to challenge one another. We will examine how past conflicts still influence current decisions, how both nations use military and political tools to advance their interests, and why disputes over regions like Eastern Europe remain so sensitive. We'll also look at how issues such as energy, cyber activity, and global influence contribute to ongoing friction. This opening section aims to provide a clear foundation before moving deeper into the historical, political, and strategic factors that define the U.S.-Russia relationship today. A historical background. The relationship between the United States and Russia is shaped by a long and complicated history that stretches back to the Cold War. Although decades have passed since the Soviet Union dissolved, many of the tensions that define that era still influence how both countries view each other. During the Cold War, the U.S. and the Soviet Union competed for global influence, each promoting its own political and economic system. Even after 1991, when Russia transitioned away from communism, the sense of rivalry never fully disappeared. Russia faced economic hardship, political instability, and a reduced global presence, while the United States emerged as the world's dominant power. This imbalance created resentment in Moscow and led Russia to pursue policies aimed at restoring its status on the world stage. During the 2000s, as Russia regained economic strength and national confidence, the country began reasserting itself, especially in regions it considers historically connected to its security. Meanwhile, the United States maintained partnerships and alliances that Russia viewed as encroachment. This historical backdrop, marked by mistrust, strategic competition, and conflicting worldviews, continues to shape today's tensions. Understanding this context helps explain why disagreements persist even when both nations share some common interests. B. Economic competition. Economically, the United States and Russia operate in very different ways, yet their interests often collide. The U.S. is a diverse, highly developed economy driven by innovation, global trade, and financial influence. Russia, meanwhile, relies heavily on natural resources, especially oil and gas, which gives it significant leverage in Europe and parts of Asia. While the two nations are not direct competitors in most industries, economic tension emerges through sanctions, energy politics, and global market influence. The U.S. frequently uses economic pressure to respond to Russian actions it considers destabilizing, such as military involvement in neighboring regions or alleged interference in democratic processes. These sanctions affect key Russian sectors, limiting access to Western technology, banking systems, and investments. Russia sees these measures as attempts to weaken its economy and reduce its global reach. Another point of friction is the energy sector. Russia is a major supplier of natural gas to Europe, and the United States often positions itself as an alternative provider, encouraging allies to diversify away from Russian energy. This competition affects political relationships and strategic decisions around the world. While both nations continue to trade in certain areas, their broader economic relationship remains defined by pressure, counterpressure, and incompatible goals. C. Technology and cyber issues. Technology is a major area of friction between the United States and Russia, especially when it comes to cybersecurity and digital influence. Unlike traditional military competition, technological conflict often takes place behind the scenes, making it harder to track, respond to, or control. The United States accuses Russia of conducting cyber operations targeting government institutions, infrastructure, and private companies. These activities include hacking, data theft, and attempts to influence public opinion through online platforms. Russia, in turn, denies involvement and argues that the U.S. also engages in similar actions. Another element of technological rivalry is the development of advanced weapons systems. Both nations invest in missile technologies, electronic warfare, and digital surveillance capabilities. Russia emphasizes innovation in areas such as hypersonic weapons, which it sees as essential to countering U.S. military advantages. The United States views these advancements as potential threats that could destabilize the global security balance. The competition also extends into space technology, satellite networks, and communication systems. Both countries understand that control of digital infrastructure is vital for national security. As a result, the technological aspect of their rivalry continues to grow, becoming one of the most complex and unpredictable parts of their overall relationship. D. Security and military tensions. Security and military issues lie at the core of the U.S.-Russia clash. Both nations possess powerful armed forces and nuclear capabilities, making their interactions especially sensitive. Much of the tension centers around geography and national security. Russia views regions along its borders, especially Eastern Europe, as essential to its safety. When countries near Russia move closer to the United States or join organizations like NATO, Moscow sees this as a direct security threat. This perspective drives many of Russia's foreign policy decisions and military strategies. On the other side, the United States argues that countries should have the freedom to choose their alliances, and that its military presence in Europe is aimed at maintaining stability. These opposing viewpoints often lead to intense disagreements. Conflicts in areas such as Ukraine, Georgia, and Syria highlight how U.S. and Russian interests frequently collide on the global stage. Both nations also conduct military exercises, modernize their weapons, and position troops in ways that reflect ongoing mistrust. While neither side seeks open conflict, the risk of miscalculation remains significant. Understanding these military dynamics is crucial to explaining why the relationship remains strained despite efforts at communication and diplomacy. B. Political and ideological differences. Political and ideological differences are another major reason for the ongoing tension between the United States and Russia. The U.S. promotes democratic governance, open elections, free media, and individual rights. Russia's political system is more centralized, with strong government control and limited opposition influence. These contrasting models shape how both countries interpret each other's actions and intentions. The United States often criticizes Russia for restricting political freedoms, suppressing dissent, or interfering in foreign elections. Russia rejects these claims and argues that the U.S. is imposing its values on other nations while interfering in its internal affairs. This ideological divide leads to mutual mistrust and makes cooperation difficult even when both sides face common challenges. Beyond internal politics, both nations also aim to shape global systems according to their own values. The U.S. supports international institutions and alliances built on liberal principles, while Russia promotes a world order based on state sovereignty and non-interference. These competing visions influence how each country behaves on issues ranging from human rights to regional conflicts. As long as these ideological differences persist, political disagreements between the United States and Russia are likely to remain a defining feature of their relationship. F. Global influence and leadership. The United States and Russia also clash over global influence. The U.S. maintains a large network of alliances, economic partnerships, and diplomatic relationships, which allow it to play a major role in shaping international policies. Russia, although not as economically powerful, aims to be a key player in regions it considers strategically important, such as Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Central Asia. This creates areas where their interests overlap and sometimes directly conflict. In Europe, the U.S. supports NATO and encourages unity among allies, while Russia tries to maintain influence over countries that were once part of the Soviet sphere. In the Middle East, both nations engage in diplomatic and military efforts to support their preferred governments and political outcomes. Russia's involvement in Syria is one example where its actions challenged U.S. policy goals. On the global stage, Russia works to strengthen relationships with countries that feel distant from Western influence, including nations in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. The U.S., meanwhile, views Russia's outreach as a way to disrupt existing international norms. This competition for leadership affects decisions in international organizations, trade agreements, and regional conflicts, making global influence a major battleground in the U.S.-Russia rivalry. As we reach the end of this discussion, it becomes clear that the clash between the United States and Russia is not the result of a single issue, but a combination of history, security concerns, economic pressure, technology, and opposing political systems. Each factor adds another layer to the rivalry, shaping how both nations act on the world stage. Their relationship has shifted over time, from Cold War confrontation to moments of cautious cooperation, and now to a complex mixture of competition and disagreement. Even when their interests briefly align, deeper tensions continue to influence decisions on both sides. What makes this rivalry particularly significant is its global impact. The actions of the United States and Russia affect international stability, alliances, regional conflicts, and global markets. Their choices influence not only each other, but also the broader international community. While neither country seeks large-scale conflict, the persistent mistrust and conflicting goals ensure that their relationship will remain challenging for the foreseeable future. Understanding these dynamics helps us see that the U.S.-Russia clash is more than headlines or political statements. It is part of a long-term struggle over influence, security, and national identity. How this relationship evolves will continue to shape global affairs for many years to come.